Joy Marie?
Savage Joy, usually.
Savage Joy, that's the persona, definitely. Well, friends, I am pleased and humbled and honored to introduce my next guest. This woman is doing really great work with the progressive movement. She is a member of the Real Progressives. You can see her writing on realprogressivesusa.com. You can go to YouTube, their channel. I'd say the UC1JFVB, but apparently they don't want you to just have an easy link. So go to YouTube and search for Real Progressives Joy Marie Mann. Savage Joy. How are you today? I'm
so good. It's New Year's Eve. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, totally. I guess, do you have any parties to go to later on?
No, I'm old, so I'm actually in my pajamas snuggling with my dog.
That sounds fantastic. Perfect interview weather.
It's pouring out, so it just felt sacrilege if I would get like dressed up and, F that noise.
Right. Well, yeah, so this podcast, this interview is going to go up by itself, but the podcast, yesterday I did a segment with Josh. I think tomorrow or the next day I'm going to do a segment with Jesse. It's probably going to be the biggest one, but you are part of the first episode of season 2, and it's otherwise episode 25. We're still newbies in this. And in researching you, I saw that 10 months ago you had a 50th episode thing. So I got to ask, how many episodes have you recorded? How many times have you had a show on YouTube?
I'd say almost 200 at this point.
200? And how long have you been doing this?
About a year.
About a year. Hey, bravo. That's really amazing.
And I work full time.
And you have an actual job. Yeah, ditto, girl.
Yes.
But I have to say, you have a whole lot of experience. Let's see. You do interviews with candidates. You do rants. I saw a couple of them on there. You definitely preach the Real Progressives doctrine that I see. And I'm sorry to use those terminologies. I'm not trying to say it's religion or anything, but what would you say your favorite part of doing YouTube videos is?
I think my favorite thing was interviewing candidates. I've interviewed over 100 from across the country. It was a lot of work because I had, like, lack of a better term, litmus tests for each one that I would interview, such as you had to have voted for Bernie in the primary. That was not negotiable. Now, well, I shouldn't say that, because if I had someone who said they voted for Hillary and said, I didn't know about Bernie then, but, which never happened. But I guess I'd be open to it then. And having a pretty much identical platform, no corporate donations, support Medicare for all, support Green New Deal, things like that. So that way I can say, like, all 100 and something were all truly Bernie-crat candidates, all truly progressive. And in those interviews, I definitely learned so much as far as learning the different rules as far as voting and elections in each state. Like Washington State is mail-in ballot only, and there's California, who's, the so-called jungle primary, where top two go to the general, even if it's both Democrat or regardless. So there's so many different rules. There's a lot of closed primaries. There's semi-open primaries. There's paper ballots. There's machines. Yeah, I don't even get that shit. Semi-open, like, okay, well, semi-open meaning they can show up and re-register that day. So, to me, that's open. I don't know. I'm in Pennsylvania, and we have to, like, switch a month in advance. So, to me, that's closed. To me, open is you can vote for who you want, which is, I guess, open and semi-open.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm up here in Maine, and we had a caucus in the Democrat anyway. So that means, I guess, the Republicans do it that way too, according to the rules. But it was semi-open, I assume, because I had not even been a registered voter for the past 4 years because I was disappointed in Obama, and actually 2000 really crushed me as well. I was 20 years old when that happened. And so I had stayed out of politics, and I saw Bernie. I was like, okay, I used to live in Vermont. I know who this guy is. I love what he stands for. And fuck it, I want someone like him to be president. Damn it. So I went and I registered Democrat for the first time ever. I'd always been an independent, just so I could cast my vote for him, and it was a caucus. So like I was my at that time wife was kind of trying to quiet me down because I'm like screaming and yelling for Bernie and booing all the Hillary Clinton stuff because that's how I am on Twitter. And apparently everybody thought it was funny and nobody was amused at the same time, if you can understand that. So
I would have joined you.
But that kind of segues me to, I have to ask, were you involved much in politics at all before the 2016 election cycle began way back in 2015? Or who was it or what was it that woke you, so to speak?
It was 2015, punk rock dude named Bernard Sanders. Yeah, 2015. And, you know, I'm going to be 40 in a few months, so it's something I'm really not proud of, that it took me that long, but I'm certainly not the exception. It seems like millions of us were there. I'm white, middle class, you know, it's disheartening that I was never exposed to anything, you know, even slightly. I've always been an empath. I've always been, you know, I've always loved people and I've always wanted to help people, and I've always been involved in charities and working with nonprofits, things like that. But I didn't understand the magnitude of so many things going on. And then, you know, when I got introduced to Bernie, it was just like, next thing you know, I'm organizing marches and rallies and protests, and some of them were getting up to 1,000 people, and it just started. It took on a life of its own. I'm in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, so I am right there.
Wow!
Everything I organize is on the Capitol steps.
Boom.
So, yeah, like, I don't fuck around.
That's crazy. Yeah.
They know me.
I saw that he was running in the primary because I just happened to catch the news by accident, because I was even like at a point where I hadn't been watching TV, YouTube and everything else online, but I don't have cable. I don't have a television. So I didn't even pay attention to the news anymore. And I saw this guy on one YouTube video because it happened to be the most popular one at the moment, because I clicked on politics to see, because I'd heard Hillary Clinton and I really don't like her. And then I heard him speak, and he's saying every single thing that I'd been thinking, which was part of the reason for me to just avoid politics, because I figured no one's ever going to actually say that out loud. And boom, I got scooped by a political group. I started editing people's articles, and now here I am on a podcast and all sorts of other neat stuff. So we aren't the only ones. I haven't met anyone yet who said anything else besides that this guy he was saying what they were thinking, and there it is. However you want to frame Bernie Sanders out there in the real world. I mean, you may not even like him, but you can't deny this, right? So at least that was a positive. More people paying attention, giving a shit. Fewer people refusing to vote, you know?
Absolutely. He made things like Medicare for all household terms.
Yeah.
Nobody was talking about that shit. Nobody.
I have conservative family members who would never speak about hemp as a resource. They wouldn't talk about Medicare as something that actually is a dividend for being a citizen. You know, that they would always think of it in terms of, I don't want to pay for these old people and these deadbeats. Yeah, and now they're actually considering it because it's being spoken about. Because, well, holy shit, if we all got the same thing the people in Congress got, then we would feel like we were on an even playing field, you know?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. But just to change gears a little bit, so you are a part of Real Progressives. I would have to argue that your face is just as directly connected with it as Mr. Grumbine's. And I have to ask...
I hope not. I like what I say more than how I appear.
Well, I just mean if I see Savage Joy, I think Real Progressives. That's what I'm getting at. If I see Steve Grumbine, I think Real Progressive. Actually, we have several mutual friends that are all part of Real Progressive. But I want to ask you, what is a real progressive to you?
To me, it is the most important thing as a person is that you stand strong in your beliefs. However trite that sounds, that to me is important. I consider myself a real progressive because I want progress, which is the root word, and also because I will not compromise. I refuse to. I strongly believe in things, and I will not waver. I do not enable things I don't believe in. I have my core beliefs, and I will not enable anyone to do anything that's hurting humanity. That's my overall thinking. It's not just me, it's hoping that I'm sick of seeing people in pain, pretty much. So anyone who actually is an empath, cares about other people, wants progress, and then on a more, technical side, it's don't want money in politics, economically savvy, Green New Deal, wanting to help the environment, really just wanting people's lives to be better.
Okay. Wow, that's a really good answer. In fact, that's pretty much aligns how I'm thinking. That's why I don't like to associate it with a party or even an ideological terminology that they use these days. I mean, you see in the news, especially on the right, if you ever listen to right radio, I do sometimes just so I can get the perspective. It's not that I'm listening to it for entertainment, except to laugh at these fools.
Right.
But sometimes they get things right. Like I've always said that if you want to know what the liberals did wrong, go listen to the right wing. If you want to know what the right wing did wrong, go pay attention to NPR for a minute. And you'll hear them accurately attack the other. And the problem I'm finding is that they aren't accurately portraying themselves. They're masking their own flaws, which I guess in all reality, if these are corporations, then they're unnatural persons. And so they're probably pretty vain.
Yeah, definitely.
But I hear that the folks on the right, they use the term progressive when they're describing a centrist, neoliberal, damn near right of Nixon capitalist shill. And I got to know, do you think that it, but could it be possible that this is a word that we need to abandon? Or do you think there's hope for being able to reclaim its definition and really prove to these people that they're confusing the public on purpose to keep you from being able to drive a movement home? That's what I think. What do you think?
I'm going to be so honest with you. I struggle with this a lot.
Yeah.
Not only has the word progressive, so many people are so desensitized to it. And then also, you have people, basically anyone who has a D next to their name is progressive to a lot of people. You're not Trump, you're progressive.
Yeah.
So, I've heard some people use populist instead. I'm not sure. I mean, to me, I'm a very proud independent, and I kind of tend to stay away from the word progressive unless I'm promoting my show, just because it's, people like Kamala and Beto and, Biden and stuff, people are throwing the word progressive at them, and I'm like, progressively what? Like progressively
worse.
Yeah, like progressively crap every day. So I really tried to stay away from that label as much as possible.
Yeah, when we were forming this podcast, I'm sure you do a little bit of art. You look like the artist type anyway, at least what you do, your medium. your audio is art. So I get these floods of thoughts whenever I get excited, and immediately I thought, get with the program. Wait, ProgRam, progressive Rampage. And I was thinking about the video game of Rampage where the monsters are attacking the city. And I was like, this is progressive, like just releasing it all and saying whatever you want. And that was what it was supposed to be for. But now I kind of label us ProgRam a lot more often than I write out the word progressive. I mean, to be honest, even in the Twitter sphere, I get more likes if I don't write the word progressive down in any of the messages. Yeah. And that is kind of disturbing to me. But in the long run, I bought the domain name for 2 years, so sticking with it at this point. But so I have another question here I wrote out for you. Let me just read it directly off my lime green cue card. Do you think regimented unified strategy... Wow, I really wrote this in shorthand. Okay, let me restart that. Do you think that a regimented unified strategy can ever be achieved on the left? Or would a more loosely associative agreements work better, like ranked choice voting for whom the indies that don't have a party affiliation are actually going to vote and then they stick with it? Or maybe do you think that a new party should be formed the way the DemExiters want? Or do you think that DemExit should drag all the DemExiters with them back in the Democratic Party so they can reform it? Or and I have this last piece, and I promised on Facebook that I'd go a little more into this theory. Do you think that DemExiters should possibly stick with local elections and where they can run on these platforms without actually having to be a Democrat? They can run without an affiliation in a lot of states, in a lot of cities. And then DemEnters can focus on the federal level things like they have been doing anyway, and attacking the DCCC and all them. And DemEnters then financially and vocally support the DemExiters in their campaigns just in the local media. And DemExiters can financially and vocally support the DemEnters only in their media that's necessary, and kind of like hit them from two different sides in order to change or destroy that party, whatever happens to make sense at the moment. You don't have to agree with me.
I smell you. I totally, I understand the logic with those options entirely. However, I think those options are being presumptuous that people will be willing to do this. We are so fractured as a movement, and I don't even know if we could call it a movement anymore. It's, when we first started, it was Democrats against Republicans, period. Now it's progressives against liberals, against neolibs, against Greens, against libertarians, against Bernie, against Hillary, and it's, there are so many different factions within this what once was a movement that I don't see how. I mean, we can't even get on the same page to vote for the same person, because I sure as fuck no, I didn't vote for Hillary. But,
no, I didn't.
I wrote in Bernie, so they can suck that.
I voted for Madam Stein. I wanted them to get on a debate stage. That was my dream.
Yeah, and I totally get why. I met her. She's very nice. I told her I wrote Bernie in, but anyway.
Yeah, right. I teeter-tottered on that possibility. I really did. Like, right up to dragging the curtain behind me in the booth, I almost wrote in Bernie.
I think, okay, so here's an example. 2015, we had bajillions of people who were like, if Bernie continues to get cheated, we're writing him in. I mean, thousands upon thousands.
Yeah.
Okay, and then what happened? Jill came in and, it just destroyed and I'm not saying this about Jill. I'm saying that this is what happens to a movement. It's like suddenly there's, lack of a better term, another option, and shit goes chaos. So that's what I see. That's what I see happening with your options. Yeah. I see people being like, okay, cool, but then next thing you know, someone starts running and they're a Dem, and they're really, really good, but DemExiters say, I won't vote Democrat. I don't care how awesome they are. And, and it winds up being a clusterfuck again. So while I totally understand the logic, I don't think it's feasible.
Okay, fair enough. So is that I don't think it's feasible to, I guess I went a little long on the last part there, but what about, so I guess what I'm really digging into in this last piece here is DemEnter, DemExit, or Demented. What's your take on that?
For me personally, when I was at Occupy DNC, and I was marching in those streets, and it was over 100 degrees, and we're marching 8 miles a day, and we're screaming at the top of our lungs how democracy's dead. And I ripped up my voter registration card and threw it in the casket with the upside down donkeys. That's what I think of when I think about myself in DemExit. I think about how I sat there with thousands of people as we had a candlelight vigil for democracy, and people were crying because we knew that things were going to be complete shit because of what they were doing to us, whether that means under Hillary or under Trump. We knew it was going to be bad.
Yeah.
So when I think of DemExit, I think about, how I felt that week and how it was one of the hardest weeks of my life. So I DemExited at, Occupy DNC. I went on my phone and went independent immediately.
Right.
And I did go back to Dem for the PA primary because we're a closed state.
Yeah.
And a few of the people I wanted were Dems. So I did do that. But then literally the day after I voted, I went back to independent. As far as people saying, I really like Bernie, but if he runs Dem, he doesn't get my vote. To me, I don't understand that. I don't understand. Dems are garbage. I agree. They're crap. But I'm not willing to sacrifice Medicare for all and, having a humanitarian as a president just because he has a D next to his name. I will not sacrifice that.
That's exactly the point that I was kind of trying to make on the DemEnter thing. I guess on the national level, the people who are DemExit, of course, they want to form another party. They want to vote for someone. They would probably vote if let's say if Bernie went primary Democrat and lost the primary to whomever and then decided this time, fuck it, I'm going to go join Greens or I'm going to go independent, that we're all going to vote for him no matter what he runs. So that would actually drag every single DemExiter right into his pocket for his vote, right? Because they don't want to vote for the Democrats. But if you could just convince them that it's about the person and not the party that they're trying to hijack in order to get... the blue no matter who assholes out there, and the red till I'm dead assholes out there, they think that people that are rhinos and dinos and that they don't deserve votes because they're carpetbaggers in a certain point of view. But they're really just utilizing the only two possibilities for them to get to where they need to go because they've created this system that way. They're making a duopoly that you have to enter in order to get seen on television, or else you're just going to get smeared by the bought and paid for propaganda media. So I guess maybe a good strategy going forward to just get it done is to explain to a DemExiter that, of course, fuck the DNC. But don't just say that and then everybody who happens to jump into it. If you can vet someone who's running as a Democrat, even locally, and they don't match the horrible criteria that seems to plague the national system of Democrats, then fucking vote for them. Vote for the individual. They earn your vote, right?
Right. Absolutely. That's what I think will totally fuck us over, is all these people saying because he has a D. And the thing is, I interviewed Jeff Weaver on my show, and he's, Bernard's campaign manager of 32 years. And we talked for hours. Granted, the show was only 1 hour, but we talked about everything under the sun. And he really verified so much of what my thought process was. Bernard runs independent, and he's not getting any of those vote blue no matter who's. He's not getting on the debate stage.
Yeah.
He's gonna, let's just be honest. I wish we could win with an independent. I wish. That he is an independent. Whether he puts a D next to his name or not, he is an independent. And if he feels the need, at the convention, he switched back to independent literally the next day. He announced it.
Yeah, so I remember. I also remember the tears
strategic.
falling out of his eyes as his people were getting silenced at that fucking convention. God damn.
Oh my God.
The only thing that made up for that were the tears falling out of Hillary's eyes when she lost the fucking presidency. Even though I hate Trump, that was kind of bittersweet for me at the moment.
Oh, it made me just kind of really happy.
There's folks out there that might say, well, that makes you heartless because think of all the people of color out there that are getting screwed and you're not because you're a white person and you have privilege. And okay, all those things are true too, but she's a fucking dirtbag. She was not going to help anybody out.
No, she's a racist piece of shit. Yeah. And the thing is that the whole, if she would have won, we'd be at brunch. Yeah, that's the fucking problem. At least Trump forced people to get you off your damn ass and start caring about shit. He inadvertently helped people in that regard.
That was a great article you wrote about voter shaming. That was one of the ones I read on the website.
Dude, I got a lot of hate for that, so I know it's good.
Yeah. In fact, that's kind of the litmus test for those things, right? The more thumbs down it gets, the more I got to watch.
Yep.
So, Now comes the time for our lightning round. And just to let the listeners at home and yourself also understand, the lightning round consists of 10 questions. I may or may not have written them beforehand. I could be making this up all on my own. You never know. They're going to be in the form of yes/no questions, short answer. There is one or maybe two very brief short essays in there, but we'll try to keep it clean. And true, false, and whatnot. So are you ready? Are you prepared to take on the lightning round?
I was born ready.
All right, here it comes. Lightning round.
Lightning round. Lightning round. Lightning.
What is your favorite texture?
Texture?
Texture.
Fuzzy?
Fuzzy it is.
Is that a texture?
Certainly is. What is your favorite color?
Teal.
Teal, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, question 3. Give us one reason for a red till I'm dead voter to vote for Sanders in 2020.
Because he fights for everyone, regardless, even the poop heads who disrespect him.
Fair enough. I like that. Poop heads. All right, question 4. Is a vote owed to anyone in particular, or is it something to be earned by candidates?
Earned, 100%.
Goddamn right. Number 5. On a scale of 1 to 10, how important is it for voters to understand MMT and why?
Well, I would say like an 11, probably, because that's how people will acknowledge that we have the ability to fund all of these things to help humanity.
All right, good answer. Question number 6. If it takes a conservative group to finally take down the Clinton Foundation, will you applaud the effort or fear the repercussion of Republicans becoming a less morally reprehensible party in the eyes of the public?
I've struggled with this.
Yeah.
I would love to see her taken down. Like, oh my God, I'd love it. But at the same time, should it be the right wing, it'll be, well, it's not valid. They're just attacking her.
Good
so, at this point, I think I've just come to grips with the fact that if it happens, it happens. But I'd rather take her down persona-wise. I like destroying her credibility even more.
Nice. All right. Ad hominem for good causes. I can do it. Question 7. Is Warren so hated by the right that Byrne could lose with her as a running mate?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, you agree?
Oh, yeah, totally. Question 8. What is your ideal duo for 2020 if Sanders cannot, for whatever reason, be a candidate?
Mark Ruffalo and Susan Sarandon. I would love to see Miss Nina. Oh, no, Bernie. Oh my God, I don't know. I guess we'll do Nina and Tulsi.
Nina, Tulsi. Nina on top? I mean, Nina as president?
Yes.
Question
What do you
9.
think?
Personally, I need to dig a little more into Nina. I think that she was duped when she used to work for the DNC. She did have a job for that group of people, but she has since never set foot over there anymore. And so that makes me think about her being an operative. Maybe yes, maybe no. With questioning Nina's stability, I would put Tulsi at the top of that ticket, but those are still the two that I feel like they could be the only ones
I could do
trust.
that.
Question 9. Pick one. Live a long life on your knees in a neoliberal, neocon New World Order, or die fighting on your figuratively.
Wait, okay. I'm just thinking that's what she said. Okay, live a long life on your knees. And what was the rest?
Live a long life on your knees in a neoliberal, neocon New World Order, or die fighting on your feet. Figuratively, of course.
Oh, if when I die, I'm dying fighting on my feet.
Absolutely. Final question.
If I die.
Yeah, well, medical technology these days. You get a high level of income. I couldn't, wager you might live about 300, 350. Talladega Nights, ladies and gentlemen. Question 10. If you could be any type of tree, what type of tree would you be and why?
I would be weeping willow.
A weeping willow. And why a weeping willow?
Well, because my favorite band is the Chili Peppers, and I love when they talk about it in their one song, and I researched it, and it's so beautiful, and I love the way that you can actually analyze it to see that it's kind of, it almost looks like it was created out of sadness.
Wow. That is probably one of the most elaborate answers I've received on that question.
Sorry.
Fantastic. No. That was a good one. Thank you. Well, Savage Joy, it has been such a pleasure having you on the program, and maybe in the future when we can get you back, we'll have you in studio with the three boys and see how you hold up handling the jokes and the nonsense. How about that?
Listen, I was interviewed on a podcast with these two fellas who were just straight up nothing but sex jokes, and I had a blast.
Okay.
It doesn't bother me. Oh, hell no.
Yeah, no, I
think I am a boy in a girl's body. Because I'm pretty much like straight, like sex jokes and cursing, and doesn't offend me.
I was PMing Jesse Cheney, one of the hosts, about getting your interview, and he said, "Has she heard the show?" He didn't know who you were.
Has he heard my show?
Yeah, right. I should direct him there. Well,
Yeah,
it has
I
been
feel like
always,
she has to use profanity disclaimers every show, but
you know what? We decided, and maybe YouTube's going to catch on if they ever listen to these, but we decided to stop doing the disclaimer because Jimmy Dore doesn't do it. And that way it shows up without people having to sign in to look at it. And to be honest, I figured they would just say, hey, you need a disclaimer, and then we'll put one on. But we have not been bugged in 20 episodes now.
well, the reason why I started doing it is because our show goes live on Real Progressives and then goes over to YouTube afterwards.
Oh.
So I have a whole different kind of audience.
It could
and
be kids. It could be old people. Yeah, right.
Right. And I have a very young aesthetic, and I get a lot of like older dudes who's like, watch your mouth, young lady, and stuff like that. And I'm telling you, all the time. And I'm like, yeah, listen, bitch, I'm almost 40. Shut the fuck up.
Hey, full disclosure, I'm turning 39 in a matter of 3 weeks. Yeah.
Woohoo!
So I guess all the Gen X cuspers out there are the ones trying to make it happen.
Yeah.
One last question. The resistance. That's just fucking batshit crazy, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I would rather die than wear a pussy hat. I'd rather die.
Oh, and you should know, and lots of ladies should know this. A woman told me this one. She called it a twabagan. So fantastic. Well, Joy, it has been a pleasure, and I hope you have a fantastic 2019 and solidarity, girl.
You as well. Thank you so much, Chris. Thanks for asking me to join, and much love. And you have an awesome year to come as well.
Word up.